Greetings, Michael! Thank you once again for allowing this connection to come through you in this way, in this fashion, in this modality. This is Kayel speaking to you now at this moment. Now that I am here, is there any question that you have for me? Please share. Okay, we understand that you have some questionings that you have been posed from a friend, and you wish to have these answered by proxy. Understand that although we can answer these questions, that due to the nature of the questions being via proxy, we will not be able to solicit further information or gain a clear understanding, so to speak, of the vibrational place from which the individual is asking these questions. And thus then we can also not ask for further clarification if such clarification is needed for the delivery of a more clear and concise answer, which would be more in line with what that individual is actually seeking when asking that question. However, with this understanding, we will move forward and answer in the most generic way that we can, given the information that we have at our disposal to work with. Now, please do ask the first question. The first question is, can dead people come in the form of animals or birds? First of all, do understand that the animal kingdom is such that, well, first of all, let us talk of the idea of birds. Birds are a type of messenger in the sense that this particular idea, this particular animal is somewhat of a middleman, is able to translate. Well, let us phrase it this way. When you are in a state of alignment, when you are in a state of positivity or receptivity, thus then you can attract yourself to certain symbols from either the animal or even insect kingdom. They can act as reflectors to certain ideas of connections or synchronicities that you are currently exploring. With regards specifically to the ideas of those that have passed on, yes, it is possible for those that have passed on to somewhat relay a message or utilize insects, animals, in a way such that if you are thinking of them and you are in a state of being, one moment, open and willing to receive any such communication from that individual in any way, shape, or form, that strong urging, that strong intentionality to form some form of bond, some form of linkage will come through in the path of least resistance. And if perhaps for that individual, that path of least resistance is for the message to come through in the form of animal consciousness, then that will be the way that it comes through, whether it be via a bird or any other animal. Animals can serve that purpose. Animals, understand, animals are connected on other levels that humans are not. The idea, for instance, of dogs or cats in particular, are able to pick up on other dimensional planes of existence. They are, so to speak, in tune in ways that most human beings are not. That is not to say that humans cannot engage in that type of interactivity with other dimensional planes. However, for cats, for instance, it is more innate. It is a more innate ability. Now, going back to the idea of birds, it is entirely possible that the bird that this individual that has asked this question has referenced is receiving some form of communication from his father who has passed on, so to speak, of course, do understand that this individual is always present whenever someone passes on, goes on to a more expanded version of themselves. Understand that the death experience is simply a waking up to more of yourself. When you close your eyes in this physical waking reality, which is actually a dream in and of itself, that is dreamed up by the higher self, when you close your eyes in this dream and awaken, so to speak, in another plane of existence, your higher self, when you commune with your higher self once more, it is as if you have awakened to more of yourself. You have remembered yourself. And from this expanded perspective, you can understand that you, in your physical waking state, are still able to have communications with someone who has transitioned into the more expanded state. Simply understand that the means, the path of least resistance, if you are wishing to communicate with someone in such a state, is to meet them halfway, vibrationally speaking. Understand that where they are at now, they are vibrating at a very high rate of frequency. They are not so much experiencing the ideas of ego and personality constructs. That is something that is germane to the third dimensional plane of existence. That is what you have solidified your consciousness into this third dimensional plane to experience. When you die, so to speak, you become a more expanded version of yourself. You see that the reality that you previously thought was real was actually your dream that you dreamed up from the perspective of your higher self. So thus then, when you re-emerge into more of yourself and wake up to more of yourself, as if waking up from a dream, you are at a higher vibrational rate, experiencing a different type of reality, wherein your vibration is at a higher frequency. Thus then, if anyone in the lower frequencies of third dimensional existence wishes to communicate with someone who has passed on, the most likely way in the waking reality is through the use of these messengers, birds, animals, and such. However, that is not to say that is the only way that such a being can communicate with those that are still physical. The other method that is a path of least resistance to communication, continued communication, is in the dream state reality. When you are in your dream state, you can understand that that is, well, the template level reality, a plane of existence that is between your waking reality and the non-physical reality. When you fall asleep, your consciousness goes into, so to speak, this other plane of existence, wherein you can have discrete experiences and discrete explorations. And understand that when you are dreaming, your vibration is somewhat higher. Thus then, you can understand that due to the natural, well, let us say this, due to you being in that state, that dreamlike state, where your vibrations have raised, you are thus then more of a close match to your father who has passed on. And thus then, you are more readily, well, let us say this, he is more readily able to see you from that perspective, because you are now a closer vibrational match to him. you are more in phase, more in sync with his reality from his new point of view. And thus then you can understand that once you have entered into that dream state reality, you are thus then able to communicate with him. Although, do understand that due to the nature of this reality, there are certain aspects, certain things about this reality which are very different from your waking reality. Certain experiences that you can have in the dream state with your father cannot exactly be pulled back into the third dimensional reality. It simply does not translate. Thus then, understand that what you do need to pull through will come through in the form of dreams, remembrances. Now understand that these dreams are not what actually transpired when you were asleep. They are simply an analogy, so to speak, a translation to the best of your ability of certain communications, certain back and forth, certain explorations that you've had being translated into the third dimensional reality so that you can make sense of it while you're here. Pull it back and work with it while you're here in your waking reality. Understand that the dimension of experience that is taking place in that dream state, the only way to fully understand it is to be in it. When you come back to the waking reality, you can understand that things are fleeting. For a moment, you may recollect your dream very vividly when you are waking up, but then it slowly fades. That is because you are acclimating to the vibrational resonance of this third dimensional reality, which is very different. Thus then you can understand that when you, well, let us say it this way, whatever you feel is important for you to draw from that dream state reality, any communications that you may have with your father, you will download, so to speak, bits and pieces, ideas of concepts that you had, discussions rather, you had with him in the form of these dream fragments. And again, understand this is not exactly what actually transpired. It is simply an interpretation from your third dimensional perspective of let us say this, of another dimensional experience. It is as if, to use an analogy, if someone, let us say, if something was existing in a two-dimensional reality, wherein there is only length and width to play with, and that idea, let us say, they wished to understand the third dimensional reality. Say, for instance, they wanted to understand the idea of a sphere from the second dimensional reality experience. They would only be able to see the sphere in terms of a circle, perhaps becoming, starting off small, getting larger, progressively larger, then smaller, as the sphere moves through their two-dimensional reality. That is the download that they can get of the idea of the sphere. Understand, in that same way, you are downloading into your third dimensional reality experiences from your dream state. Now, we do hope that this has sufficiently explained the idea of the ability to communicate with those that have passed on, and also the idea of the non-physical realm and the dream realm and the three-dimensional realm and the connections between all three. Now, we will reiterate, if the individual who has asked this question was present, they could thus then interject here and there and ask for further clarification. But perhaps another time if that individual wishes, and if the channel is comfortable with the idea, this can happen at another date. Now, is there another question that the channel wishes to address for this person, this friend? Please share. We are more than happy to address any questioning. One moment. One moment. The other question is, how does? One moment. How does death happen? All right, we will answer this. This is very similar to the prior question. The same idea of death, so to speak. Understand that there is no actual death. You exist. It is one of the fundamental laws of the universe. There's not much you can do about that. You may change form. However, you cannot cease to exist. However, we do understand the meaning behind the question, and we will simply say that when you die, so to speak, you simply transition. You simply close your eyes from one perspective and open them up from a differing point of view. You can understand this from perhaps the idea of, well, let us say it this way. Imagine a giant sphere. In the center of this sphere, well, first of all, this sphere in its entirety is you. Now, in the center of the sphere, imagine a body, your body. Now, imagine that everything, the sphere, everything within the sphere, and including your body, is you. Now, imagine the body having eyes, and those eyes opening, and you seeing through those eyes. Imagine now that this is you in your waking, three-dimensional, physical reality. Alright? Now, imagine you closing those eyes, and, as you say, dying, passing on. What actually transpires is you close your eyes from that point of view, from that body which is within you and within your consciousness. Understand, most people have it backwards. Most people believe that their consciousness is within their body, when in actuality your body is within your consciousness. And all that happens in the idea of physical death is you close your eyes from one perspective within your body and open them from a more expanded view. You open them from within, this analogy, within the sphere. You close your eyes within the body, within the sphere, and you open them from another perspective within the sphere. You are still in existence, but from a differing, you are experiencing reality from a differing point of view. Now, understand also that all death, let us phrase it this way. You are such powerful creators. You have so much free will and free choice in how you create your reality, that even if you die, so to speak, you actually have the ability to come back. You understand? We have explained this idea on prior occasions. However, for the purposes of this recording and this individual who is asking the question, we will need to go over some background information. And that is that the way you experience the three-dimensional physical reality, the way that you experience time, the way is by shining the light of consciousness, so to speak, through the idea, this is an analogy, of a film reel. Okay? Now, imagine that the film reel has a number of slides, thousands of slides, and that the consciousness is being shone, the light is being shone through those slides as they move, as the slides move. This creates the motion picture, your motion pictures that you watch in the movie theaters. Likewise, you, in the creation of your life in this physical three-dimensional reality, are shining your consciousness in a similar fashion through a slide reel. The slides, each individual slide being a discrete reality, a discrete snapshot. And understand that you are shifting from moment to moment to moment to moment to moment to moment, billions of times per second, from parallel reality to parallel reality. Over and over and over and over. You do this so seamlessly, so effortlessly, you do not even realize it. And this shifting of your consciousness through these discrete individual slides, so to speak, for lack of better terminology, this is very colloquial, you experience the waking dream that is your third dimensional reality. Okay? Now, one moment. You can also understand now with this analogy and this idea that you are always shifting from parallel reality to parallel reality. Understand that there are an infinite number of parallel realities for you to choose from. There are an infinite number of explorations for you to choose from. Whenever you make a decision, whenever you make a choice, you do not change the world. You change yourself. And in doing so, shift to an already existing world that is more in line with your new vibration. Everything in reality exists. All possibilities, all the infinite possibilities of what all you could possibly experience already all exist. It is simply you choosing in moments, from moment to moment to moment to moment, what reality you wish to shift to. What do you wish to experience? And in choosing and acting on your excitement, on whatever it is you wish, you shift from moment to moment to moment to moment. Now, this is a lot of background information in order to answer this question. However, we are doing so due to the fact that the individual is not present, and we wish to ensure that this individual fully understands the extent of our answer to him. Okay? Now, understand that at the moment of death, so to speak, you are actually given a choice. You can, if you wish, choose. You have this much power to come back in a parallel stream reality, which is so similar to where you left off that you would not even realize you died. This is how much power you have as a creator, as an aspect of the infinite. You are made in the image of the infinite, of the creator, of all that is. And understand that in that idea, you have that same degree of power to create. And thus then you can understand that even when you have passed on, if you feel that there are certain ideas, certain explorations that you still wish to play out, you can thus then pick back up where you left off, and as if you had never actually died, with no recollection that you have died. Many of you, humans on your planet, have died many times. You simply don't remember. Okay? Now, you can understand that in that sense, that whenever there is a death, it is by choice, so to speak. Simply understand that if the individual feels that they have played out the themes that they wish to play out, if they feel that in their passing that it will be a best service to all involved in some way or another, even if those involved may not be able to see it at the moment, if that individual as well feels that they have fulfilled their idea of what they wish to explore in this life, the ideas that they wish to explore in this life prior to their incarnation into it. They can thus then choose to move on to another experience. We do hope that this is satisfactory. However, if the individual wishes for more clarification, he can ask another questioning and we can answer it at a future date. Or, if the channel wishes to and is comfortable with it, he can engage in a back and forth with the individual as well. Now, is there any further questionings that we can address at this moment? Okay, we do understand that there is a third question, and that is how? How do you, one moment, how do you swim safely in the sea? Okay, well, this is a question, this is an example of a question wherein we would need more clarification from the person asking the question. However, we will do our best given what we have to work with, and we will simply say that if you come from a place of joy, a place of excitement, and you wish to swim with, well, let us say this. If you wish to swim and you come from a place of excitement and you wish to swim in the sea, you can understand that you will attract yourself to circumstances, people, and certain places within that sea such that you can have a joyous experience. You can have a experience which is pleasurable. If, however, you come from the place of fear, if you come from the place of fearing the worst, so to speak, you thus then can understand that due to the nature of your third dimensional reality, due to the nature of how the law of attraction, as you call it, works, the fear itself, the worrying of the possible negative outcomes is actually what is setting up the attack. When you fear the worst, you attract like vibration. Thus then, you can understand that you are actually in that moment you are fearing co-creating a reality potentially that is not of your preference. Thus then, the way to be most safe, so to speak, is to come from a place of joy and excitement. Not to say no to fear, not to say no to what I do not want to experience, but to say yes to what I do want to experience. If you continue the idea of saying no to what I do not want, and saying no to this idea, no to that idea, I do not want this, I do not want that to happen, oh, I cannot have this, oh, I fear this, I fear that. No! If you come from that place, you will only attract situations and circumstances such that you will more likely be able to attract that which you are fearing. Thus then you can understand to have a joyous experience, to have an experience which is, let us phrase it this way, the best way to live your life. It is very simple, you need not complicate things, is to take action on whatever excites you in the moment. And we are not saying that it has to be jumping up and down excitement. It can simply be what you feel is most interesting to you at the moment, even if it is to simply take a walk. Simply come from that place of doing what excites you the most, and if that is your only intention at every given moment, you will attract yourself to people, places, things, and circumstances which will be of like vibration. And understand also that anything that happens in your life is essentially neutral. It is a neutral set of props. That is the benefit of this three-dimensional reality. It is essentially a neutral experience. It is up to you as creators to give every circumstance meaning. You can give it a positive and empowering meaning, or you can give it a negative meaning. It is up to you. You can create perfect joy and excitement, or you can create perfect fear and misery. No judgment. It is up to you. You are sovereign creators. Every reality that you create is up to you. There is no, shall we say, hierarchy. All realities are perfect as they are. Perfect representations of whatever ideas it is that you are exploring at the moment. Now, this is all we will communicate regarding this idea. If further clarification is needed, that individual can come back to us with further ideas to discuss. All right? Now, we do understand that there is a fourth questioning. One moment. One moment. The question is, how to be a daredevil? Oh, all right. Daredevil, how creative. Well, the first question, again, this is very, very subjective, so to speak, in that the idea of daredevil can mean a variety of things to many different people. It means different things to different people. From our perspective, we will say this. Our interpretation of the idea is to simply act on your excitement from a place of joy. And if that leads you to circumstances and situations which other people may judge to be dangerous or judge to be unsafe, to simply realize from your point of view that perhaps there are certain aspects to the endeavor which may be, for lack of better terminology, tumultuous, potentially. If it is your excitement to engage in it nonetheless, then do so. You can understand that you will, regardless of what the outcome is, enjoy yourself if you are acting on your excitement. And whatever happens, even if you happen to, break a leg, you can understand that even that is a neutral experience and you can derive positive benefit from it. Everything that happens in your life is essentially neutral. And understand, again, if you act from a place of joy, if you do not act from a place, let us say it this way. If you act from a place of fear, if you act from a place of fearing the worst, of thinking, oh no, what if this happens? What if that happens? This is very dangerous. Oh no. If you come from a place of fear, you will thus then be more likely to attract a reality that is not of your preference, as the idea of fear is believing that a reality is most likely, that is, let's say it this way. It is the idea, fear, is the idea that what is most likely to occur is a reality that is not of your preference. That is the idea of fear. However, if you simply choose, it's not about choosing not to fear, it is about simply choosing to act from a place of joy and excitement. And in doing that, you automatically allow yourself the greatest opportunity to explore the ideas you are wishing to explore in an integrative and enjoyable way. And again, whatever happens, understand, of course, if you are doing an endeavor which has a certain degree of, for lack of better terminology, inherent tumultuousness to it, understand that when you are making your decision to engage in that activity. Understand what is involved, and if it still excites you, if you understand everything that is involved, and you are okay with everything that is involved, all the ideas, all the possibilities, and you still find it exciting, then act. Of course, again, this is very, very, very generic information. We do not know the specific nature of which this individual is asking the question. We do not know if he is wishing to, tightrope walk across the Grand Canyon, or simply choose to engage in perhaps a business venture of sorts. There is a great degree of difference in those ideas, and what we would say would vary greatly depending on what this individual is referring to. However, our overall suggestion is to simply understand what it is that you are engaging in fully. And if you understand exactly what you are engaging in fully, and you act from a place of positivity, integration, expecting the best, and acting on your excitement, provided that this is what is most exciting for you, that is all you can do to live your life in the most enjoyable way. To act on whatever it is that is the most exciting thing that you can think of in each given moment. And allow that thread of excitement to lead you to the next most exciting thing and the next most exciting thing. Your life can be that easy and flowing, a free-flowing experience of ecstatic experiences, enjoyable experiences from moment to moment to moment. Even if the elements of excitement seem to be unrelated, the excitement itself tells you that they are related. Even if you perhaps are, as we understand from the memory banks of this physical channel, this individual who he is channeling for is one who is very much business-minded. And you can understand, Abinec, that when you perhaps are, let us say you are engaging in a business venture, working on a business venture, and you have a spontaneous idea that you wish to perhaps go to the gym. The fact that these two ideas are unrelated, but, let us say it this way, even though these ideas are seemingly unrelated, the excitement tells you that they are related, that they are connected. So simply, if you were most inclined to take a walk, even though you are very much excited about perhaps your business, if at the moment you are feeling that you're most excited to take a walk or perhaps go to the gym or do some other activity, understand that that is connected to the idea of pursuing your business or whatever other idea it is that you are wishing to pursue, whatever other daredevil, as you say, idea it is that you're wishing to pursue. It is all connected. And if you act on whatever it is that is exciting to you, even if it's seemingly unrelated, understand that that will lead you to the next most exciting thing. Perhaps going on that walk leads you to come up with an idea for your business. You'll never know unless you do it, unless you try, unless you take action on what is exciting to you at every given moment, irregardless of how it looks on the surface. All excitements are connected, understand? Now, this is the best we can explain this idea of being a daredevil from our perspective as we can. This will require much, much more feedback from the individual, however, to get a proper answer. Okay? Now, we do hope that this session has been of benefit to you, Abinay, and we simply say we thank you for your questionings. We hope that you have found this to be a benefit, and we look forward to other interactions with you. And we will simply say at this timing that we thank the channel for allowing this exciting sharing, this exciting development to take place this evening of your time as you create time to exist. We understand that this is the channel's first, exploration the first setting his foot into new soil with this exploration of channeling for other people in a more direct way. And thus then, we are more than happy, more than willing to take part in such an exploration, such a sharing. And we deeply are grateful for this, and we thank him. Now, having said all this, we will simply say to you, good evening and pleasant dreams. We will have future interactions, if you wish, this night of your time. All right? Good evening.